I never expected to wake up next to the love of my life after 3 years apart. The soft glow of the morning light slipped through the curtains, filtering through the dust particles dancing in the air. Confusion washed over me. I blinked, heart racing. My mind replayed last night, a blur of laughter, whispers, and tentative touches. But there, next to me, was Sam. His familiar breath stirred memories I thought were buried. I could still feel the ghost of his warmth wrapping around me. Every heartbeat pounded in my chest. 3 years. 3 painful years. Each day filled with aching longing. Or fleeting moments of connection, like a dream just out of reach. I could taste the salt of tears I never wanted to shed. As I turned to him, his dark hair fell across his forehead. My fingers itched to tuck it behind his ear, but I hesitated. What had changed? Were we mended? Or was this just another illusion? My heart trembled between hope and fear. 3 years ago, we parted. He left for a job across the country, promises of a future slipping through our fingers like sand. I built a life, went on dates, tried to forget, but every moment was tinged with his absence. And now he was here, breathing in the same space, but was it real? The air felt electric. Shivers danced down my spine. I traced the outline of his jaw with my trembling fingertips. Was he dreaming? Did he remember the fights? The heartbreak? I longed for the softness of his gaze, that playful spark we used to have. But silence loomed, heavy and unyielding. Suddenly, his eyes fluttered open, and the world shifted. Our eyes locked 1 second, turning into an eternity. I searched for answers in the depths of his hazel gaze. But he just blinked, confusion mirroring my own. "Where?" he murmured, voice husky. I swallowed hard, unsure of how to respond. The clock on the wall ticked loudly, each second echoing my internal chaos. Questions flooded my mind, swirling around like fall leaves caught in a restless wind. Why was he back? Did he feel the same? A light knock on the door startled me. My heart raced again, this time out of anxiety. Who could it be? I grabbed the sheets, pulling them tightly around me, the fabric suddenly feeling like armor. Sam turned towards the sound, frowning. Maybe it was a Drayaman absurd twist in the plot of my life. Or maybe it was a setup for a heartache I wasn't ready for. My pulse quickened. I breathed in deeply, feeling the air thrumming with possibilities. A door creaked open slowly, and an unexpected voice called out. "Hey, you two. Are you awake yet?" I glanced at Sam, a mixture of dread and curiosity consuming me. What would come crashing into our nest of uncertain dreams? Did the answer lie just beyond that doorway? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The figure that emerged from the doorway was Megan, my closest friend and often the much-needed comic relief in the chaos of my emotions. She was bright and vibrant, with her messy bun and a handful of breakfast burritos. "I thought you both could use some food," she chirped, blissfully unaware of the silent storm between Sam and me. I leaned back against the pillows, cautious of the moment turning into yet another performance with a predetermined script. Megan's cheerful voice felt like an unwelcome intruder in our delicate bubble, but as she placed the plate on the bedside table, I saw the warmth in her eyes as she looked at both of us, a flicker of hope glimmering through her smile. "Wow, so you made it through the night." I was worried I'd have to rescue you both from her teasing faded as Sam's gaze drifted over to mine, and suddenly, it felt as though she'd stepped into a minefield she didn't know existed. "Samantha," he said softly, his voice a mere whisper. He seemed lost for words, as if the years and the distance had eliminated the vocabulary necessary to bridge the chasm between us. Megan's presence suddenly felt confining, and I longed to pull Sam closer, to wrap my arms around him and say everything I couldn't articulate. But instead, I threw on a smile, desperate to hide how reality hung heavy in the room. "How did you find me?" I asked, forcing my gaze to flicker away from Sam and towards my friend. "That I texted you. And oh wait, you probably haven't looked at your phone since last night. You should check. I was just about to say that your mom sent the most frantic message. Something about needing to talk." My stomach sank into a pit of dread. My mother's calls always came with undertones of urgency that I could never shake. What could possibly be wrong now? As I looked at Sam, I realized that our reunion had barely ignited a spark before the rest of our lives intruded with their ferocious demands. Megan set about making herself comfortable on the chair beside us, completely oblivious to my internal struggle. I felt tethered to a thread that was both familiar and frayed, a connection with Sam that felt achingly beautiful, yet so fragile. I couldn't help but wonder if we could even piece back together what we once had, especially when real life seemingly barreled down to crush any moment of hope we dared to nurture. "Let me grab my phone," I said, slipping from the bed, my movements deliberate to avoid breaking the tension that hung between us. I stepped into the bathroom, closing the door behind me as if seeking refuge from the whirlwind of emotions. The reflection in the mirror stared back at me, a haunting reminder of the last 3 years. I'd worn a mask, pretending I could move on, but I never really had. My heart tugged at the memories, the laughter, the love that had filled my days but was now shadowed by uncertainty and fears clinging like ghosts. How could I be here with Sam, so achingly close yet burdened by unspoken complications? I grabbed my phone, unlocked it, and my mother's frantic message erupted across the screen. "We need to talk. It's about your father." The blood drained from my face. My father's health had become a distant worry, hovering delicately in the background of life. Rushing back into the bedroom, the weight of new anxiety settled in my chest. "I think I need to see my mom," I stammered, feeling the sharpness of reality slice through the reverie of warmth and possibility I had felt just moments ago. Sam's brow furrowed with concern, and in that instant, everything felt heavy again. "I understand," he replied, his voice caught between understanding and regret. I wanted to explain, "I know it's complicated," but before he could finish, another knock on the door interrupted us, abruptly redirecting the emotional current that had just begun to stream between us. My heart surged with trepidation, fearing who or what awaited on the other side. "Megan, are you in there?" A hesitant voice spoke. It was Jason, Megan's boyfriend, and the interruption felt too timely, as if life was playing a cruel game, blurring the line between our past and the impending future. As Megan jumped to the door, excitement danced in her eyes, but my stomach churned. I turned to Sam, capturing the flicker of emotions in his gaze, the shared acknowledgement of the truth suspended in this universe of uncertainty. But as my heart clung to hope, dread bled into exhilaration as the door swung open, leaving us both vulnerable to the world outside. I just wished I could rewind to last night, where everything was uncomplicated, where love flowed like honey between us. Instead, the weight of the day ahead pulled me into an abyss of what-ifs and maybes, the specter of my father's health looming. With a trembling breath, I stepped out into the daylight, my hand brushing against Sam's as I passed a touch, igniting a flame of longing that promised to flicker, but perhaps not flame into anything more just yet. And as we stood on the precipice of our past and our uncertain futures, I couldn't shake the feeling that the day would bring revelations far beyond my control, pulling strings of fate I wasn't prepared for. The hallway stretched before me, its stark white walls seemingly absorbing the chaotic energy that pulsed through my veins. My heart raced as I navigated the familiar territory leading to the main lounge of the hospital. I felt unsteady, as if each step was heavy with the uncertain future I was tumbling into. "Megan." Jason's voice echoed through the space, a beacon of normalcy in an increasingly tangled web of emotions. He emerged with an infectious smile, his eyes lighting up as he enveloped her in a tight embrace. For a brief moment, as I watched their joy, I felt a swell of warmth, a reminder that life could still flourish even in the shadow of despair, but the contrast between their happiness and my turmoil only deepened the chasm in my heart. I kept my distance, desperately trying to manage the confusion coiling within me. I could see Sam walking behind me, his footsteps tentative, as if each step was a reminder of everything left unspoken. "I brought you guys some snacks," Jason continued, oblivious to the storm brewing around us. He fished a plastic bag from his pocket and offered it like a truce, spilling its contents onto the small table, an assortment of granola bars, dried fruit, and a couple of protein shakes, thank. Megan replied, her voice light and airy. I wished I could share in her enthusiasm, but my mind was tethered to my mother's message, the dreadful implications swirling like smoke within my thoughts. Taking a slow breath, I forced myself to focus on their laughter, hoping to drown out the rising anxiety inside me. But as much as I wanted to join them, my mind kept straying back to Sam. He lingered near the doorway, an anchor to my thoughts, his presence both comforting and disorienting. Just go grab some coffee, I mumbled suddenly, unable to bear the tension that was blooming in the air. I turned away, not waiting for a response, and slipped down the corridor. The scent of antiseptic and sterile rubber mingled with the faint aroma of coffee as I stepped into the small cafe adjacent to the waiting area. As I stood in line, I could hear snippets of conversations humming around me, tales of hope mingling with despair. A nurse spoke empathetically to a family, a young couple debated the tiniest details of their child's care. They were all locked into their own battles, yet somehow, they seemed so much more resolute than I felt. While waiting for my drink, I found solace in watching a child drawing on a paper towel, their face scrunched in concentration. For an ephemeral moment, the innocence radiating from them garnered a spark of hope, a reminder that life continuously unfolded even in chaos. Black coffee, please, I instructed the barista, my voice barely above a whisper. As I stepped aside to await my drink, my phone buzzed in my pocket like a lightning strike, pulling me sharply back to reality. My mother's name lit up the screen once again, beckoning me to unravel the mystery shrouding her message. My heart sank further. I couldn't ignore it. Not now. I quickly glanced around, ensuring I was in a quiet corner, then tapped the screen. Mom, I just saw your message. What's wrong? The response came almost instantly. Can we talk? It's really important. Inside me, a tumult of emotions churned, forming a storm too powerful to navigate. My father's heart had been a soft subject, one I'd dreaded facing. It became easier to push aside the creeping thoughts, to remain in denial as the world continued swirling around me. But now, it felt like the walls were closing in, and I was left gasping for air, struggling against the current. Here you go. The barista slid my drink across the counter, breaking my reverie. I used the hot cup to ground myself, taking a second before returning to the heaviness of the world outside the comforting cafe. With each step back to the room, the stakes felt increasingly heightened. I could feel the electric tension between Sam and me, and the looming conversation with my mom tethering me to an uncertain fate. As I walked back inside, I was struck by the sight of Megan leaning into Jason, her head tilted back in laughter, while Sam stood awkwardly by the window, the weight of his unspoken feelings wrapped heavily around him like a thick fog. Hey, I got coffee, I announced, forcing an energetic tone into my voice, but the celebratory mood shifted drastically when I saw Sam's eyes locked onto mine, revealing a vulnerability that both excited and frightened me. Megan and I were just discussing what we'll do for dinner, Jason said, attempting to bridge the gap, blissfully unaware of the tension. There's a great Italian place nearby, Megan chirped, her excitement filling the room. That I wanted to reach out, to pull Sam back into our bubble, but the distance felt insurmountable. I stuttered, anxiety clawing at my throat. The thought of dinner felt trivial with what I was facing. I might have to head out for a bit. Is everything all right? Sam's voice cut into the air, laden with concern, and suddenly every heartache surfaced, each raw emotion threatening to spill over. I paused, the weight of the moment pressing down. I need to speak with my mom first. It's about my dad. His expression fell, hurt flashing beneath the surface before he masked it with an understanding nod. Of course. You should do that. The palpable silence weighed heavy as I internally cursed the timing of my family's turmoil overshadowing our fragile reunion. Before I could leave, I made the spontaneous decision to approach Sam, willing myself to be brave even as uncertainty flickered in the depths of my mind. Can you come with me? His eyes widened in surprise, hope flickering across his features, but uncertainty soon clouded his gaze again. You want me to come? Yes, I breathed, my voice barely louder than a whisper. I think I need you by my side. Moments stretched endlessly as he considered my request, heartbreak and longing warring beneath the surface. Finally, he nodded, and I felt a subtle current of solidarity pass between us. No words needed, only the understanding that we were stepping back into the storm together. And as I turned to leave, clutching my coffee like a statue of bravery and hope, I couldn't shake the feeling that what awaited us both was beyond what we dared to believe. The looming conversation with my mother might unravel more than just family secrets. It could lead to revelations that would intertwine our fates in ways I hadn't prepared for. The anxiety welled at the pit of my stomach, not tightening around hope, uncertainty, and the battle between both hearts. And as we exited into the light of the waiting world, I realized I was not only journeying to face my father's possible fragility, but also the formidable challenges woven into the fabric of choices that lay ahead for Sam and me. The hallway felt different as I walked side by side with Sam, the once familiar echo of my footsteps now muted beneath a blanket of unease. The clamor of the bustling hospital faded, leaving just the sound of our synchronized breathing, heavy with unspoken words. Each step felt like a leap into the unknown. An uncertain future loomed, and I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was waiting for us would change everything. "Are you okay?" Sam's voice was soft beside me, a stark contrast to the chaos brewing inside my mind. I turned to find his gaze steady, filled with genuine concern, and it both melted and terrified me. I hesitated, weighing my words. "I don't know what to expect. My mom's message felt urgent, and now being here with you, it's like I can't separate the two worlds." He nodded slowly, a look of understanding coloring his features. "It's okay to feel that way. We're in this together, remember." His words should have buoyed me, yet they only amplified the whirlwind of emotion roiling within. I wanted him here, I craved his support, but I was terrified of what he might discover about my family's struggles. The thought alone sent a shiver down my spine, and I tightened my grip on the coffee cup as if it could ward off the creeping dread. As we approached my mother's room, I felt the weight of the door pressing down on my chest. It loomed like a barrier between my old life and whatever new reality awaited on the other side. "I'll be right here," Sam reassured me, sensing my hesitation. "You got this." With a deep breath, I closed my eyes momentarily, steadying myself. I pushed the door open, my heart thrumming against my ribs like a caged bird desperate for freedom. And my mother sat in her hospital bed, sleep-deprived and frail, yet her eyes sparked with the same fierce love that had always defined her. She looked up at us, surprise flickering across her face at the sight of Sam. "Oh, you brought him, Mom." My voice trembled as I crossed the small room and sat in the chair beside her. I could feel Sam shift slightly behind me, his presence a grounding warmth even as anxiety coiled around my throat. "Megan, sweetheart," she said softly, her voice hoarse yet determined. "I'm glad you're here. We need to talk about your father." The room shrank as her words hung heavily between us, and the walls seemed to close in again, suffocating the light that hope had tried to cast. I glanced up at Sam's face, searching for reassurance, but found only the same shadow of concern I felt creeping into the depths of my chest. Is it bad?" I stammered, fear threading through my voice. My mother hesitated, her hands trembling lightly as she reached out to touch mine. "It's complicated, honey. Your dad's condition has changed. The doctors are concerned, and I think you deserve to hear it from me, not just the hospital updates." Every word she spoke felt like another layer of ice crashing into my resolve, and as she detailed the latest developments, I saw Sam's expression shift from concern to heartbreak. Each piece of information was a reminder of how fragile life truly was, a truth I had tried to avoid facing. As she spoke, I pulled my gaze from her and glanced at Sam, his mouth set in a hard line, his eyes glazing over with unshed tears. And in that moment, I couldn't help but think of how much life had changed over the last 3 years. I had feared a disconnect between us, and now I felt the fracture deepen as the reality of my family's struggles settled in. "Mom, is there anything we can do?" I asked, my voice steadier now, steeling myself against the swirling emotions. She shook her head, eyes glistening. "Right now, we need answers. I wanted you to be here when we speak with the doctors. There's a chance for treatment, but it depends on how he responds to this current plan." Just then, a knock interrupted our heavy conversation, and the door creaked open wider. A doctor stepped inside, his presence sucking the air out of the room. He greeted us with a polite smile before turning his attention to my mother, but the unease etched into his face told me that the forthcoming conversation could shift our lives even further off course. As he began to explain the latest prognosis, I felt Sam's fingertips brush against my back, grounding me as waves of dread washed over me. How much more could we endure? Just when I thought the weight of the world had settled firmly on my shoulders, a loud crash echoed from the hallway, a sound so jarring, it sent chills down my spine. The doctor paused, looking towards the door with a startled expression. "Excuse me," he said swiftly, darting out of the room. As the door swung shut, a palpable tension stretched thick in the air, leaving me wide-eyed, my heart racing with the uncharted possibilities of what could be happening beyond our small sanctuary. Sam shot me a glance filled with urgency. "Do you think?" Before he could finish, another crash erupted, followed by a string of loud voices filtering through the closed door. My pulse raced as adrenaline kicked in, and anxiety pressed against my chest like a stubborn weight. "Mom, what's going on?" I asked, fear creeping back in as I stood up abruptly, glancing at the door, longing for clarity amidst the chaos. "I don't know," she whispered, her voice cloaked in worry. Then, in a flash, the door swung open again. A nurse burst in, her face pale as she looked at my mother. "We have an emergency, we need to move you to a different ward." Sudden panic filled the room. My mother's eyes widened in fear, and I turned quickly to Sam, clinging to the tether of his presence. "What do you mean?" I shouted, desperation spilling from my lips. "What's happening?" The nurse hesitated, the weight of responsibility evident on her face. "I'm afraid I can't discuss the details. We need to act quickly." As she ushered my mother's bed out of the room, my heart thundered. I glanced back at Sam, our eyes locking amidst the surrounding chaos. In an instant, I understood that we were on the cusp of something monumental, a new challenge that neither of us had anticipated, a leap into the unknown that threatened to alter our paths forever. And just as quickly as the nurse had come, Sam turned sharply to follow, a fierce determination in his eyes. "I'm not leaving you," he vowed, stepping into the maelstrom at my side as we followed the frantic movement into the hallway. Hope, terror, and uncertainty wove into the fabric of our journey, but now, with each hurried footstep, I grasped the truth: whatever awaited us just ahead, we would face it together. The chaos of the hospital began to blur together as we rushed through the bright, sterile hallways, the constant beeping of machines and the soft hum of conversation swirling in a disorienting rhythm. I could barely keep up as the nurse wheeled my mother's bed around corners, with Sam steadfastly at my side, our hands brushing against one another amidst the turmoil. "What's happening?" I pressed, catching up just a little closer. My heart raced with each unanswered question, sparking panic. "There's been an emergency in the ICU," the nurse replied, her voice steady but urgent. "We need to move your mother out of the main ward for her safety." My grip tightened on Sam's arm, his warm presence offering a flicker of comfort even as the uncertainty clawed at my insides. I wanted to shield my mom from whatever darkness loomed ahead, but the harder I tried, the more I felt my own fear creeping in. We arrived at the ICU, where a sense of controlled chaos enveloped us. Doctors and nurses moved swiftly, their faces set with tight determination that indicated the gravity of the situation. I caught glimpses of other patients, some shrouded behind curtains, all part of a world spinning wildly out of my control. The nurse gestured for us to wait in a nearby family room, glancing at my mother as the medical team surrounded her, talking in urgent whispers. I felt a crushing sensation in my chest, the emotional weight of everything pressing down harder with every moment spent waiting. "I just keep thinking," I murmured, barely able to finish my thought. What if this is it?" Sam turned to face me, his brow furrowing in concern. "Let's not go there, Megan. Your mom needs you to stay strong. We should focus on what we can do right now." A shard of anger mixed with desperation shot through me. "What can we do? She's in there fighting for her life, and I can't even help her." His expression softened as he took my hand, grounding me amidst the torrent of emotion. "You're helping just by being here. She knows she's not alone. And neither am I." His words were a fragile lifeline, a much-needed reminder that I didn't have to carry this weight alone. We settled into an awkward silence, the hum of machines punctuating the heavy air around us. Minutes passed like hours, and just as the clock neared the hour, a doctor finally entered the family room. His face was unreadable, but I could sense the tension radiating from him. My stomach dropped, and I glanced at Sam, his eyes locked onto mine, a silent agreement that whatever news awaited us would be faced together. "Ms. Morgan," the doctor began, peering down at the clipboard in his hands. "We're doing everything we can, But your mother's condition is critical. We've managed to stabilize her, but I cannot sugarcoat the reality: she is facing major complications. A wave of emotion hit me like a sudden tide, and I felt the world around me narrow. The doctor's voice faded as my mind launched into a tempest of what ifs and past regrets. Thoughts of my mother's laughter, her comforting embrace, and her unwavering belief in us shattered under the weight of impending loss. "Is there hope?" I whispered, my voice trembling. "Is there anything we can do?" The doctor's gaze faltered for just a second, and in that fleeting moment, I saw a flicker of humanitarian understanding of the pain we were all facing. "We're exploring all medical options," but before he could finish, another frantic commotion erupted from the hallway. A group of nurses rushed past, pushing another gurney with a patient wrapped in thick blankets. I could feel the air grow thicker with anxiety, and my stomach twisted. The unrelenting uncertainty hung over us like a storm cloud, with darker implications lurking just out of sight. "We need to act quickly," the doctor finally added, his tone urgent. "There's a chance your mother may be moved to surgery soon if things worsen." My breath hitched at the word surgery. My mom had never even discussed it, had tried to shield me from the severity of her condition. I felt anger bubbling beneath my surface she shouldn't have sheltered me from. This reality. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, yet I felt rooted in place as my uncertainties spiraled further. Sam squeezed my hand tighter. "Well, figure this out," he murmured, his voice a lash of warmth against my inner storm. "I'm not going anywhere." Suddenly, the room felt cramped as people rolled in and out, discussing my mother's case in hushed voices, making me feel more like a spectator to my own life. I wanted to scream for the room to stop spinning, to give me a moment to breathe without feeling swallowed by this fear. And then, like a flash of lightning across the dark horizon, I spotted a small, elderly woman sitting in the corner, her hand holding onto the arm of a man who looked just as broken as I felt. She met my gaze, offering a soft smile, as if she sensed the gravity of my fear. "Child," she said, her voice shaky but wise, "you hold a strength within you do not yet see. You can face anything. That Commissar mother's love, it never fades. Cherish that." I blinked, taken aback by her tender wisdom amidst the chaos. It was an unexpected kindness, and it warmed my heart, reminding me of all the moments my mother had fought for others, even when her own battle loomed large. And just as hope began to flicker within me, my heart dropped again as the door swung open. A figure I recognized burst into the room. My brother, Jake, his face pale and panic-stricken. "Megan," he called, his voice urgent, his gaze landing straight on me as fear drowned in his eyes. "Jake?" I said, collapsing into the intensity of that one syllable, emotions fraying at the edges of my newfound hope. "What's wrong?" "There's something I have to tell you, something important." A foreboding chill raced through me, the air hardening with tension as I prepared to hear something that might change everything yet again. The walls around me felt like they were closing in, the uncertainty thickening like fog. "Tell me," I urged, already fearing what was to come. He took a deep breath, the weight of his next words poised to shatter everything I thought I knew. "It's about Dad." And in that moment, my world tilted once more, the horizon darkening into a chasm I feared we might fall into together. I could barely breathe as the shadows of uncertainty enveloped me. Jake's words hung in the air, sharp and cutting. It felt as if the floor had fallen out from under me, leaving me suspended in disbelief. My father, the mention of him pulled at threads woven deep into the fabric of my family, revealing intricate patterns of love, hurt, and division. "What about Dad?" I whispered, my voice a fragile echo of my dread. Jake's face twisted with anxiety, searching for the right words to articulate the storm brewing inside him. Sam's grip on my hand tightened, as if he understood that I was about to step onto a precipice that might lead to the depths of my heartache. He tried to reach out. "He wants to see Mom," Jake blurted out, the rush of words tumbling from him like fallen leaves in autumn. I didn't see it until now, but has been calling the hospital. My heart raced, a cacophony of emotions flooding through me, a mix of anger, disbelief, and a faint flicker of something softer underneath it all. My father. After all these years of silence and anger, the rage that had fortified my heart against him began to wane, giving way to confusion. "Does she even want to see him?" I asked, heat rising in my chest. "I don't know," Jake said, his voice thick with frustration and sadness. But Hes not the only one. I broke the news to him about Mom's condition. Hes desperate, Megan. The idea of my father stepping into that hospital, onto this battleground of hope and despair, was unfathomable. I felt my pulse racing, fighting against the notion with every fiber of my being. He abandoned us. How could he even think of showing up now? Rage surged anew at the thought, igniting a fire that had long felt extinguished in the wake of my mother's illness. Sam's touch was grounding, his presence a reminder that while I would face this tempest, I wasn't alone. We should hear him out, he said softly, offering a perspective I hadn't considered. Hes still family, right? Even with everything, family? I scoffed, my voice rising with the conflict that clawed at my heart. He chose to walk away. Family doesn't just get to reappear when it's convenient. Jake took a step closer, his expression pained. Megan, it's not just about him. It's also about Mom. This could be her chance to find closure for all of us. His words were heavy, anchoring both hope and the undeniable reality of Dad's absence from our lives, torn between a desire to protect my mother from further hurt and the unexpected opportunity to mend years of brokenness. A silence enveloped us. I let out a shaky breath, overwhelmed. I don't know if I can handle seeing him not now. What if it only complicates things? The weight of my past rushed in, a veritable flood of memories, of laughter shadowed by neglect, of holidays marked by absence, an anger that had morphed into a protective shield. I understand, Sam whispered, as if sensing the war raging inside me. You don't have to make a decision right now. Just think about it. The sweet voice of the elderly woman from earlier echoed in my head. Every bit of my heart felt conflicted. Could love truly endure past all grievances, or were there some wounds too raw to heal? Just then, the door flew open once more, and another wave of medical staff rushed in, stealing the breath from my lungs. Ms. Morgan, a nurse said, her face flushed and serious. Your mother's condition is worsening. We need to make some decisions soon. Time is critical. My heart dropped to the pit of my stomach as her words carved fresh valleys of fear deeper into my heart. How could anyone even think of my father's return when the very essence of family was fighting for oxygen in that cold, sterile room? Do you have to let him in? Jake asked, apprehension seeping into his voice. What if it makes things worse? The visions of my mother, her warm smile, the way she had fought for my happiness, her fierce love that now tremored under the pressure of illness flared through my mind. I carried that love in my veins still, despite everything. But now, the horizon I saw was shifting before me. Are you willing to give him that chance? Megan? Sam asked gently, his eyes seeking mine, unwavering and full of unspoken support. I don't know. My voice broke with indecision, and remnants of the anger I carried felt like a distant, hollow echo. Just think, he urged, squeezing my hand. What if this is about more than just him? What if this can help your mom? A negotiation stirred within me, resonating with Jake's earlier words. As the chaotic sounds of the hospital punctuated our silence, words of the elderly woman's echo became a guiding star, igniting a sliver of hope tangled with the resonant pain of my heart. Before I could respond, the doctor reappeared, the urgency in his demeanor signaling the gravity of what lay ahead. We need to prepare for surgery now, Ms. Morgan. Wait. I blurted, the thoughts crystallizing in a flash of clarity. If we let him see her, would there be a chance? Could it actually make a difference? The room felt electric, the weight of my words crashing around me as uncertainty lingered in the air. The doctor raised an eyebrow, assessing, and just behind him, I caught Jake's hopeful gaze. It's possible, the doctor said cautiously. But you'll need to act swiftly. As I braced for the plunge into the unknown, I felt another heartbeat close to mine, our fears merging and blurring against the tide of our love and longing for a mother we desperately wanted to hold on to. But before I could voice my decision, an alarm blared somewhere down the corridor, a jarring reminder of the stakes involved. My heart surged anew. Was it a sign of a storm yet to come? The world had changed again, and I found myself caught in the whirlwind, adrift on the sea of choices left to face. Would I be brave enough to open my heart, to let my father back into a life torn with hesitation and fear? Or would the ache of abandonment keep me tethered to a safe, yet lonely, silence? The sterile smell of antiseptic clung to the air as I sank into the chair beside my mother's bed, her frail form almost unrecognizable under the crisp white sheets. The steady beeping of the heart monitor, once reassuring, now felt like an ominous countdown. Each sound echoed my racing thoughts, spiraling around the impending decision I faced. "Mom," I whispered, almost afraid to break the fragile stillness that surrounded us. I leaned closer, grasping her hand which felt cold against my skin. Here, sleep had settled heavy on her eyelids, leaving her sunken features drawn and pale. I brushed a wisp of hair from her forehead, a familiar gesture that felt both tender and fragile, a continuation of our history bordered by heartbreak and unyielding love. What would she want? The question gnawed at my heart, threatening to unravel me entirely. I had always been her protector, her fierce warrior against the world, but now I found myself teetering at the edge of a decision that could alter the very fabric of our family. In that moment, the weight of my father's potential presence loomed like a specter just beyond the door. Opening that door could mean a cascade of emotions: intense joy or unyielding pain, forgiveness or festering wounds. My pulse quickened at the possibility of his arrival, each beat a reminder of the years of silence, the holidays spent in strife instead of unity. As I sought to find comfort in my mother's condition, my gaze flickered to the window where the world continued unfazed outside, a blue sky painted with soft clouds, serenity juxtaposed against the turmoil within me. I longed to step outside of this claustrophobic space and breathe deeply, but the weight of my mother's life tethered me here. Footsteps echoed in the corridor, pulling my attention from the window. Both Jake and Sam entered cautiously. Their presence offered more than consolation, it provided the grounding I desperately needed. Jake's eyes held a mix of concern and empathy, while Sam's warm smile radiated a calmness that made me grateful for their support. "We talked," Jake began, his voice steady yet laden with emotion. "About your dad. We think maybe it's worth considering." "For her sake." "Considering what?" I snapped, feeling a surge of anger I couldn't quite suppress. "Ripping open old wounds." Ignoring the past, Sam stepped forward, his expression earnest. "No, Megan, it's about healing. It's messy and complicated, but we're all hurting your mom, you, even him. What if there's a chance to mend those broken pieces?" The confusion that had settled heavily like a fog around my heart shifted as anger wrestled with understanding. They were right. No matter how much I wanted to shield my mother from the past always had a way of rearing its ugly head. It seemed that both Jake and Sam were ready to navigate the storm with me, and perhaps that was the key to finding my way through. "Mom deserves to know all her options," Jake added softly. "It's her life, too. We can't control everything, even though we want to. I don't want her to hurt more," I admitted, my voice trembling. Sam knelt beside me, his hand brushing against my knee. "Whatever decision you make, you won't be alone in it. We'll be right here, every step of the way." His reassurance soothed the jagged edges of my anxiety, though the deep-seated fear loomed just beneath the surface. "Okay," I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. "If we do this, it has to be for her. Not for him or us." With shaky resolve, I glanced once more at my mother, whose breaths were mere whispers of the life she fought to maintain. I thought of the years lost, the memories he would never reclaim. But maybe, just maybe, this could pave the way for healing for us all. "Let's do it, then," I said, determination flooding back into my veins. "But only if it helps her." A deep breath filled the void around us, and I felt a sliver of hope bud in the pit of my stomach, a small beacon in the storm. It was a tiny light, but within it flickered the potential for reconciliation, for understanding, and for facing the demons that had haunted our family for too long. Suddenly, the door creaked open, the metallic hinges groaning, and my heart tightened at the unexpected sight. A nurse entered, her face illuminated with urgency. "Ms. Morgan, your mother's vitals are fluctuating. We need to stabilize her now." The heavy heart I had been carrying felt like it dropped into my shoes as I met Jake's gaze, and in that fleeting moment, I saw his concern mirrored in my own reflection. Before I could respond, the nurse was already retreating, the moment of clarity dissipating into frantic action. As I rushed to keep up, a sense of foreboding gripped me. What if we were out of time, and my opportunity to reconcile the past was slipping away? The thought gnawed at me, panic clinging to the edges of my mind. In the whirlwind of chaos, one final thought struck me, a gut-wrenching revelation. What if my father had already made up his mind to come, but it was too late? The horizon had shifted once more, casting us deeper into a storm of uncertainty that threatened to pull us all under. The sounds of the hospital buzzed around my heart monitors, distant voices, hurried footsteps. I could feel that cliff beckoning, and I found myself standing at its edge once again, my heart suspended in fear. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead as I stood frozen in the sterile hallway, my heart racing while the world around me melted into a blur of muted colors and echoes. I had barely registered the nurse's urgent words. My mother was in danger, and I had been wrestling with my past instead of being by her side. "Can I see her? Please," I implored a nurse, my voice a strangled whisper. Her garden of soft compassion faltered momentarily, revealing a hint of protocols and decisions that would dictate our fates. The nurse's expression shifted as she recognized the urgency in my eyes. "Follow me," she directed, and I hurried after her, each step heavy with dread. Jake and Sam trailed close, their presence a comforting weight against the racing shadows of my mind. I could sense their worry, a shared burden weaved between us. As we navigated the network of white-walled hallways, I couldn't shake the vision of my mother's frail figure, the ghost of the woman I once knew, vibrant with laughter, alive with energy. Who would she be if I had the chance to mend the frayed edges of our family? The room came into view, the door wide open. The steady beeping of the monitors had transformed into a chaotic symphony, alarms flaring and nurses rushing about, adjusting settings and whispering commands. My chest tightened, panic clawed at me until I felt dizzy. I had arrived too late to save her from the past, and now had I come too late to hold on to the present. "Stay here," Jake said, a sense of authority woven through his tone. He placed a steadying hand on my shoulder, urging me back, but I wasn't ready to be separated from her again. "We'll figure this out together, Meg. But right now, she needs you to be strong," I echoed, the word feeling foreign on my tongue. All I felt was fear, an overwhelming sense of sorrow creeping through me. I pulled back from Jake's grasp and stepped forward to the threshold. As I stood at the entrance, my mother's voice echoed faintly in my warm memory, guiding me back to safety. Before I could gather my courage, a shrill voice cut through the air. "We need you to leave now," the nurse attending my mother barked at me. She was all business, and as she gestured for VIPs to leave, her focus was solely on stabilizing my mother. "But it's my mother," I protested, desperation spilling into my voice. I needed to be there, I needed to reach her somehow. Ms. "Morgan, please allow us to do our job," the nurse insisted, her eyes flicking to the printout of my mother's vital signs, data reflecting an escalating emergency. "You can come back once she's stabilized." I could barely nod, feeling the world slip away as I turned back. The door creaked closed behind me, a finality that crushed against my chest. Jake and Sam waited, standing like sentinels in the chaos that surrounded us. "Is she going to be okay?" Sam asked, his voice a steady bridge across the chasm of uncertainty. The question hung suspended, unanswered, as I squeezed my eyes shut. "I don't know." I could feel a wellspring of tears ready to break free, but I fought to keep it together. I wasn't ready to break. Suddenly, a figure strode down the hallway, confidence radiating in their wake. My heart jolted. It was my father. The sight of him was an electric shock, awakening dormant memories, the laughter, the tears, the fractures that had twisted our family apart. Caught between fear and raw anger, I stepped into his path, blocking him from entering the room. "What are you doing here?" I snapped, my voice trembling with an intensity one had never expected to feel. "You can't just waltz back into our lives when it's convenient for you." His expression faltered, surprise melting into discomfort. "I heard I came as soon as I could. I didn't know how bad it was." "Didn't know? Or didn't care?" I accused, the walls I had meticulously built now crumbling under the pressure of vulnerability. "You had years to be part of this. And now when she needs you most, you show up. How dare you?" A painful silence stretched between us, and for a moment, I felt the burden of betrayal lift. I watched as his eyes glistened, a mix of regret and hope shimmering beneath the surface. "Meg," he started, but I didn't allow him the chance to finish. "Save it," I whispered, anger mingling with sorrow. As the nurse emerged from my mother's room, my body was suddenly at war, a desire to let him in warring against a fierce need to protect what little sacred trust remained after years of hurt. "Megan, we're stabilizing her," the nurse said, her voice filled with urgency. But my father's presence was a siren song, calling to every unresolved emotion I harbored. Just as I felt my resolve beginning to waver, the room erupted in a whirl of activity. Alarms screamed, and I felt the ground shift beneath me. I turned back to see a doctor rushing inside, his face ashen. "She's coding," he shouted, and my heart shattered, scattering the pieces throughout the corridor that felt suddenly like a prison. With each second, reality warped and twisted. I pressed my palms to my eyes, forcing down tears, desperate for control in a world spiraling out of grasp. The fleeting moments of hope we had crafted crumbled away, leaving me standing at the precipice of a truth I wasn't ready to face. "Please," I whispered, feeling Sam's grip on my arm tighten as he fought against the chaos swirling around us. I looked toward my father, a man shaped by choices that had led him to this moment. Would he stand by me in this storm, or would he disappear again, leaving me to navigate another heartbreak? Before I could gather my thoughts, my mother's voice rang through the haze, a soft, fragile call from the depths of my subconscious, haunting and beautiful. I heard her words even in the chaos. The remnants of our bond flickered to life, urging me to confront what lay beyond the door, and just as I edged closer to understanding what I needed to do, the door burst open once more, revealing the nurse's panicked expression. "We need the family to make a decision. Immediate actions must be taken." Shock froze my heart. I didn't know how to navigate this labyrinth of choices while drowning in the weight of despair, but as I stood, heartsick and faced with the reality of a crumbling family, my phone buzzed in my pocket. Raw intuition compelled me to look, and with trembling fingers, my heart whispered a new revelation, a message waiting to change everything I had believed. "Meg, I'm sorry. I love you and I'm coming to fix this. Please wait for me." The words were from a love I didn't expect. Elena. Would I even have the chance to connect with her? The horror of what could happen if I didn't act now terrified me. Was this the moment I had been waiting for, love breaking the silence I had encased myself within? As I stood frozen, torn between two worlds, my heart quaked on the threshold. The storm roared around us, the fractures deepening. I didn't know where to go next, but I understood that the waiting for an ending had only just begun. The stark walls of the hospital felt like they were closing in on me, each sterile flicker of the overhead lights amplifying the chaos roaring inside my chest. I was trapped in a moment where time had become a cruel joke, each second stretching into an eternity, shadowed by dread and uncertainty as we hovered at the precipice of a decision that could alter the course of our lives forever. "Meg, we need to talk now," my father urged, his voice slicing through the din. I glanced at him, searching for sincerity in his eyes, but all I found was the reflection of my own confusion. Would he follow through this time if I let him in? Behind him, the energy in the hallway pulsed like a living thynos, steady stream of doctors and nurses navigating the emotional wreckage around us. Their urgency was palpable, a haunting reminder that every second counted. "Don't you dare take another step," I warned him, my voice trembling as I felt Sam's reassuring presence beside me. "You think you can just walk in and act like everything is fine? My mother is fighting for her life, and you show up like a mirage. I know I've made mistakes," he said, voice raw and quavering. "But we don't have time for this. Your mother needs more than just you, Meg. She needs us as a family." The word family reverberated in my mind, a haunting reminder of what we once were, a fragmented group trying to patch together the losses we couldn't face. Could I truly let him back into my life as we stood on this fragile precipice? Before I could answer, the nurse appeared again, her features creased with urgency. "The doctors need a decision. Mrs. Morgan's status is critical." My heart sank, heavy with the impending responsibility. "What do they want us to decide?" I asked, the words choking in my throat as a tear slipped down my cheek. I wiped it away angrily, refusing to let my emotions unravel in front of anyone, least of all my father. I felt more powerful reclaiming that less-than-perfect girl I had been, stubborn and fierce. The nurse hesitated, as though the next words would break me. "They need consent for a procedure, an emergency surgery. We believe it could stabilize her, but the risks are significant risks." The ground felt increasingly unsteady beneath my feet. "What risks?" "Possible complications due to her current health, Meg. If we don't act now," she trailed off, leaving the message glaring. Time was slipping away, my options evaporating. I swiveled to face my father again, a maelstrom of emotions swirling within me. Every fiber of my being screamed in protest against trusting him again. His absence had carved out the very essence of what family meant to me, and in those moments of reckoning, could I risk it all for the possibility of healing? Meg, he said softly, taking a cautious step closer. This isn't the time. You have to think about your mother. My breath hitched in my throat, frustration bubbling to the surface. You think it's that simple? You don't understand what it's like. I've held this family together in your absence. Can you promise me she'll be okay? That I won't lose her too? As tears brimmed in his eyes, I sensed a shift. The wall of anger I had built around my heart began to crack open just a fraction. Even with all that had transpired, he appeared broken, perhaps even more so than me, a man who had to grapple with his own decisions, a man coming to terms with the lengths he was willing to go to salvage what's left. I'll do whatever it takes, he vowed, his voice pained but earnest. Just tell me what you need. Seeing the weight of his words, I turned back to the nurse, grappling with the burden of the moment. Then we consent. Well, do it. Please save her. As the nurse nodded, relief washed over her face, but my stomach twisted violently. I was surrendering to hope I didn't know if I could afford. In that fragile state, surrounded by the whirlwind of medical professionals, a haunting sense of vulnerability washed over Muhat. If I lost her, would my heart ever recover from the scars already fresh from abandonment? Would I ever forgive him? Just then, my phone buzzed again, pulling my focus momentarily from the storm around me. Glancing down, the glow of the screen bore another message that sent a flood of warmth through me, igniting both confusion and longing. Meg, it's Elena. I just booked the next flight home. I can't wait to see you. Her words tore through the gloom, igniting a flicker of hope in the depths of my heart, reminding me that there was still life outside this Chaosan untouched world waiting for reconnect. Ion. Could love bloom even amidst grief? Could it conquer past wounds? I could feel my father's gaze on me, an unspoken question lingering in the air. Trust? Family? Could I rebuild my heart enough to allow both into my life again? The interminable wait in the corridor stretched into another reality, but I knew that no matter what lay ahead, I had already taken the first tumultuous step toward forging my own path of healing. And then the door swung open again, the temperature of the air shifting as my mother's doctor emerged, a gravity in his expression that crushed my hope. Ms. Morgan, he began, and I held my breath, knowing that whatever followed would forever change the fabric of our lives. Your mother's condition is critical. We need to be honest with you. There may be complications that arise from the surgery, he continued, locking his gaze onto mine, urging me to comprehend the full impact of his words. With the weight of monumental uncertainty settling in my chest, a chilling thought crossed my mind. Was I prepared for the loss that might shatter my world, the shadows of the past that could loom larger than hope? The cliffhanger loomed both in the search for my mother's survival and in navigating the fractured pieces of my own heart amidst the unexpected love reaching out to me from afar. Would I have the strength to embrace it all, or would I emerge from this storm irrevocably altered? As the doctor stood before me, his solemn expression pierced through the chaotic cloud of uncertainty that had enveloped my heart. Each second counted as I awaited the final verdict on the future of my mother. I could feel Sam's warmth beside me and Jake's tense presence behind us, yet my focus narrowed to the man in front of me who held the direction of our lives in his hands. Ms. Morgan, he repeated, his tone careful and measured. I understand this is difficult, but we need to make a decision soon. The surgery has risks. His words wrapped around me like icy mist, threatening to suffocate the flicker of hope I had chosen to embrace when I consented earlier. I swallowed and nodded, fighting the trembling in my voice. What is the risk? What happens if we don't proceed? My heart hammered against my ribs, desperate for something more than ambiguity. The doctor cleared his throat, and I could see the emotions dancing in his eyes: pity, compassion, urgency. Without surgical intervention, she may not survive. But with surgery, there are significant chances of complications, including longer recovery and persistent health issues that may affect her quality of life. I felt the world tilt beneath me. Every word cut deeper than I could bear, fraying the already taut threads of emotional resilience I had just managed to weave together. The image of my mother, frail and vulnerable, pierced through my mind like a dagger. I thought of the laughter we once shared, the hugs that spoke of assurance, the love that overshadowed all our disputes. Mom, I murmured, the plea escaping like breath itself, and I felt Jake's hand on my shoulder, steadying me even amidst the storm within. That I could see Sam's concern mirrored in his ease, a supportive connection that reminded me I was not alone in this fight. What do you want to do, Meg? He asked softly, cutting through the loquacious haze that clouded my mind. What does your heart say? The question echoed, floating like fragile wings above the chaos, a gentle whisper of clarity in a hurricane of chaos. What did my heart want? The answer crystallized slowly, like ice melting under sunlight. I wanted my mother to live. Yes, though the surgery, I declared, the desperation in my voice a raw testament to my resolve. She deserves that chance. We'll face whatever follows together. The doctor nodded, and a glimmer of hope flickered in the depths of his eyes. I will organize the procedure immediately. Thank you for making the decision. As he turned to leave, the gravity of the moment weighed heavily. The hum of the hospital swirled around me, and I felt adrift once again. My thoughts raced. What would the surgery entail? Would she recover? Would we pull through this as a family, or would the chasms of the past swallow us whole? And then, from the depths of uncertainty, a familiar voice pulled me back. Megan. My father stepped closer, his gaze earnest yet tinged with an emotion I rarely saw: remorse. I know I don't have the right to ask this, but let me be here. I want to be part of this fight for her life, too. Every instinct screamed to shut him out, to push him back into the shadows where he had lived for so long, but as the storm raged, I saw a flicker of a man who desperately wanted to change. I don't know if I can trust you, I replied, my voice trembling under the weight of every bond, every shattered memory that threatened to resurface. You've been absent. You think this can just fix everything? He inhaled sharply, his eyes pained. I know it won't. This is just a beginning. I need to face what I've done. The sincerity in his words rooted me, pulling me into an unexpected truth. Perhaps letting him into our lives again was the only way we could heal. The door swung open as a flurry of medical staff moved in, their focus drawing away from my turbulent emotions momentarily. They quickly prepared for the surgery, gently ushering my father and me toward the waiting area. There, I saw Sam's supportive smile and Jake's unwavering strength beside me, the foundation I needed more than ever. And so, we stood there together, three hurting hearts. Connected through shared grief and hope, caught in the throes of a decision that bound us together in the face of the past. As the hours slipped by, we waited uncertain and anxious, yet somehow tethered as one through the unknown. I could feel my own heart pounding in sync with that of the hospital, the ticking clock echoing in the back of my head. But as the minutes stretched to an eternity, I sensed something shift within me, a fragile determination blossoming in the depths of my spirit. I turned towards Sam and Jake, my voice steadier than I expected. If we get through this, we rebuild. Together. Jake nodded, a smile breaking through his worried demeanor. One step at a time. Sam reached over, grasping my hand with a warmth that sent small flickers of comfort through my veins. You're not alone in this. We all want your mom back. After what felt like years, a doctor finally emerged from the operating room. My breath caught as hope collided with the anticipation of heartbreak. Your mother is stable and recovering as we speak, he said. Relief flooded through me like sunlight banishing shadows. She will need time, and with the family's support, she can start to heal. A collective breath ripped from our chests, the weight of the moment dissipating to make space for a fragile sense of peace. Yes, I sidestepped to the doorway of the recovery room, my heart raced. I might have, for the moment, glossed over the complicated relationship I held with my father. But hope filled my lungs, carrying whispers of impending healing that promised to bridge whatever gaps lay ahead. Stepping inside the room, my mother lay in the hospital bed, her face illuminated by soft light, and I could see a faint smile on her lips as she stirred to life. I held her hand, feeling her warmth seeping into me like an anchor. Hey, Mom, I breathed, fighting the emotions that thickened my throat. Megan, she replied softly, slowly opening her eyes to meet mine. In that moment, I realized that every scar, every fear, and every step we had taken to arrive at this place was wrapped in unspoken love, a love that had endured brokenness and distance, a love that promised to guide us through whatever lay ahead. As we formed our own circle around her, the story of our lives shifted slowly, lovingly, and full of potential for something beautiful. And as the light outside bathed the room in warmth, I allowed a tear to slip down my cheek, a testament to every hurt I had faced, every battle I would face again, and the quiet acceptance that perhaps, we had not just survived, we had begun to heal. In that revelation, I finally understood that even amidst chaos, the heart could reclaim its lost pathways, allowing lovey a deeper, unconditional love to illuminate the shadows of our lives. In this moment, I realized that love would always find a way back, weaving the remnants of our hearts together again, slowly but surely. The past may have shaped me, but it would not define us anymore. And as I squeezed my mother's hand, resolved to navigate whatever unfolded from here on out, I knew that together we could embrace a future rich with possibility, a chance for reunion, forgiveness, and ultimately, acceptance. And in that understanding, a new beginning was born.